I haven't seen any before. Yeah. Doing a lot of yoga stuff.
I wore it for my 40th birthday. I remember. I bought when I turned 50.
Oh yeah.
I bought
No, it's just it's sort of to celebrate people that turned 50 and turned 50 this year and turning 50 last year. 51 months anyway. Maybe a couple younger ones. It'll be a fun night.
Yeah.
It'll be like a little mini yacht club dance. Yeah. Are you gonna go to the dance?
And then in the morning, I'm like,
That's the next weekend, Saturday night.
this one? Yeah. They call it the
August, Saturday of August. It's the yacht club dance. So this one, yeah, so it's 2 weeks from now.
I wanted to say hi. My daughter's making a seat tomorrow. She's okay.
I gotta see what's going on in my place.
Welcome everyone. We are about to begin with the funeral service. Thank you.
Linda. Yes.
Please. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לו אכסר, בינו דשירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינעלני, נפשי ישובב, יענכני במגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי ילך וגצל מוות, לא ידע רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטיך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, דשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm. A Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. Guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. We also welcome everyone online. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabah Lomow Z from Congregation Shaarey Zedek, and it's my great honor to be here officiating the funeral services for Geraldine Lomow Z of blessed memory. She was also known to the Jewish people by her Hebrew name, Todah, but Chaim Rachel, Zichronah Livracha, the daughter of Harvey and Rose of blessed memory, beloved wife of Monty Lomow for some 58 years, but actually many more years together since they were a couple from high school. She was the sister of Paul Popesky and also Susan Popesky of blessed memory, the mother of Mark Lomow and Jill Lomow and Trent Carroll, the grandmother of Jordan, Braden, Ada, Ashley, and Jet, and the great-grandmother of Aiden. Jerry passed away on July 12th, peacefully, in her favorite place, Winnipeg Beach, surrounded by her favorite people, her family, at the age of 79. Today is the 18th day of the Hebrew month of Tammuz. The 3-week period that begins with the fast of the 17th of Tammuz and concludes with the fast of Tisha B'Av is known simply as the 3 weeks. It's a time of grieving for the destruction of both the first and second temple of Jerusalem. And this mourning period was first mentioned in the biblical book of Zechariah in the prophets, and since then it has been observed as a period of sadness. But we read a very inspirational story in the Talmud, where Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eleazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Joshua, and Rabbi Akiva went up to Jerusalem, and they saw the Holy Temple in ruins. Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? This is what his fellow sages asked him, with tears in their eyes, upon seeing a fox coming out of the site where once had stood the Holy of Holies in the now destroyed temple. Why are you weeping? Responded Rabbi Akiva. We see that a place so sacred is now desecrated by a fox walking there, they explain. So how can we not cry? For that very reason, explained Rabbi Akiva, I laugh with joy. You see, the prophecy regarding the destruction and exile concludes with the Temple Mount turning into a jungle. Until that came true, I couldn't look forward to the fulfillment of the other prophecy regarding redemption. Now that I see that fox, I realize that the first prophecy has been fulfilled, and I can begin to look forward to the fulfillment of the second. Optimism. Optimism is something so difficult that what the Talmud is saying is that only one out of the 4 greatest scholars of that time was able to see the same situation from a positive angle and was able to move forward and keep enjoying life. Today, we are saying farewell to Jerry, a person that was known for her optimism and for her positivity. She was also known because she was the life of the party. She was a kind soul, never judgmental. She was the soul of the family, and she was known for her love of life. We can see the merits of Jerry's life, where optimism was also complemented and supplemented by her devotion to family and friends. Jerry also worked And her work contributed to this world through everything she did. Gerry was a trained X-ray technician and worked with a couple of doctors in the field. Then she even had her own gift shop for a while that unfortunately didn't make it through, but she tried. Then Gerry became a sales rep for a few years, and eventually she started working at Book Opticals for 15 years, where she was the den mother to other employees and opticians, sharing her light and wisdom. This was something that she enjoyed very much until she couldn't physically handle work because she couldn't move around so easily anymore. But she also loved traveling. In fact, Monty reminded me about the time we talked about Argentina and the synagogues in Buenos Aires, and the fact that Gerry took notes of all my recommendations. And when they went to Argentina, she went to experience those services during that trip to Buenos Aires. She visited many places around the world until eventually mobility was an issue. But she was a positive person. She was an optimist. So she wouldn't give up, and she always found ways to move around. That includes, for example, a trip to India on a scooter, a trip to New York on a wheelchair for a month. She always went to find ways to travel, and she always found ways to be with family. For example, going to Vancouver to be close to grandkids, or continuing the tradition of spending the summers at Winnipeg Beach. The gathering place for the whole family. The with capital T. The gathering place for the whole family. Where people will stay weeks at a time, creating for her some of the most wonderful memories. Beyond family, she had what it felt like a million friends. She took the time to talk with them on the phone every day. Gerry was a classy lady who was very proud in the way she presented herself. She was also very close to Monty and had a great marriage where they shared the love for family, traveling, and food. You can say that Gerry was a foodie. She loved food, but good food. She was an excellent cook, and every day there was a gourmet meal at the Lomow's table. Mark remembers that all the other kids will be eating casseroles, but the Lomow kids will have fancy meals. Not once a week, but every day. She was very excited about food and passed that passion down to children and grandchildren. Talking about grandchildren, I would like to invite now Gerry's 5 grandchildren to come forward and to continue this process of remembering and honoring her by presenting a eulogy. You need to stand? Sorry, you need to stand?
Geraldine Lomow, our Bobby, was an amazing woman who poured out love to all those surrounding her, and especially those close to her. She was born on April 12, 1943, to Harvey and Rose Popesky. 5 years later, her sister Susan was born, and then 5 years after that came Paul. Being only 5 years apart, Susan was like her sidekick, going everywhere with her, but Paul was another story. My Bobby was like a second mother to the much younger Paul. She had a very close and extremely special relationship with both of them. She adored them with all her heart. Our Bobby had a very happy childhood growing up in a loving household and she spoke of many memories over the years, but one she referred to quite often was walking to school every day with Linda Waldman. She was always looking after people and happy to give advice, even in her youth. When Paul was having trouble making friends, she thought about it and told him, "Here, take this pack of gum and offer it out." And of course, that worked. Our Bobby was a very outgoing, beautiful person with lots of personality and always very social. From the age of 15, she was an active member of the Y Club, where she expanded her circle and merged the North End with the South. Most of these women are still her close friends today. At 15, she met the love of her life, my Zadie, Monty Lomow. They met through mutual friends as they were living in the same neighborhood. Our Zadie was in his first year of university and took her to the Freshie dance, and shortly after, they were going steady. For her sweet 16, our Zadie bought her an engraved silver bracelet. It recently reappeared, and being very attached to it, she began wearing it and had been wearing it for the last several months. She is always very friendly and very well liked, and in university was voted to be the Sammy Fraternity Queen. After getting married in 1964, they moved around quite a bit, leaving immediately for Calgary, then back to Winnipeg, and then on to Toronto, where Mark was born. When an opportunity with Manulife came up in Winnipeg, they moved back and settled there for good in 1970. In 1972, my mother Jill was born, and shortly after they moved to Montrose Street, where they lived for the rest of her life. My favorite memories of Bobby are learning how to play gin rummy and playing for hours at the cottage. She always came to visit us wherever we lived, and we always knew we were going to do so many fun things like the zoo, Science World, the movies, and a special trip to Toys R Us. Bobby would come to all our sports practices and games, and no matter how we played, she would always rave about how amazing we were. When we were little and visited Winnipeg, Ashley and I would wake up early in the morning so we could climb into bed with her, and we would all watch just for laughs and think it was hilarious. Ashley and Bobby would go into her closet, and Ashley would emerge wearing high heels, one of Bobby's purses, sometimes her clothes, and then they would proceed into the bathroom and put makeup on. In the later years, she would take us for rides on her scooter. I remember riding on it when we all went to Puerto Vallarta for a family trip, and by accident, her and I rode over a gecko. So we felt so bad we named him Splat. I'm going to miss her, always telling me that she loved me to the moon and back, and then I would say it too. Bobby, I love you to the moon and back.
Bobby was extremely involved in our Zadie's business over a 30-year period, playing an ultimate corporate wife, forging close relationships with many of my Zadie's business associates and their families, all the while working her own career paths and remaining steadily focused on raising her family and keeping a happy home. She was tremendous at juggling all of this and was driven by her desire to ensure that everyone was taken care of. Bobby had a number of different career paths over her working years. Among them, X-ray technician, a sales rep, and finally in an optical office. Book Optical was definitely her passion, meeting all the clients and assisting them in selecting fashionable glasses. She loved the people she worked with, and she became the resident den mother, confidant, and advice giver, which is no surprise because that's who she was. When school would end, my dad and Auntie Jill remember heading to the lake and spending full summers there each year. The kids would head to day camp, and all the moms would head out to the beach in their station wagons and spend the days suntanning in their chairs in the water and chat all day, until the kids rode their bikes and met up with them at 3 p.m. On the days there was no camp, they remember Bobby and her friends setting up jazzercise classes at the cottage and blasting ABBA, probably the only time she exercised in her early years, and yet somehow still maintained a fabulous figure. Whether at the beach or at home in the city, she was always an expert phone conversationalist, keeping up with all her family and friends. She was a wonderful, loving mother who believed in raising her children to be independent and self-assured, allowing mistakes to be made without judgment. All of my dad and Auntie Jill's friends felt her warmth and acceptance immediately, and everyone who met my Bobby felt that way. Our Bobby was a phenomenal cook, always finding recipes and planning gourmet meals for any days of the week, keeping a recipe binder where all the family favorites were saved that is fondly known as the Blue Book. Our Bobby and Zadie consider themselves foodies, being members of multiple gourmet dinner clubs and always seeking out the newest restaurants in Winnipeg and around the world. Our Bobby will not only be remembered for her amazing personality, but also for her cooking and baking. Everybody knows about our Bobby's signature cheesecake. It has made its way through many bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings, and other simchas. Don't worry, we still have the recipe. 2 years ago, Brendan and I got a hands-on lesson from our Bobby on how to make it. Although it could never taste as good, the legacy is not lost. Our Bobby was the biggest people's pleaser we have ever met. She always wanted to feed us. It was clear our Bobby never took quality time for granted, always smiling with us. I will never forget coming over for lunch every single day during the COVID spike and having great conversations about the past, our family history, and what was to come in the future. I will never forget our sleepovers in Winnipeg when we were younger, when Brendan and I would immediately run to our grandparents' bedroom and jump on their bed as if it was a trampoline. They thought it was hilarious. I will never forget Zadie getting stuck upside down on a ride at Universal Studios, and my Bobby couldn't contain her laughter. I will never forget our walks down the beach at the cabin, or going on bike rides. My Bobby's comfy bike seat will live on forever. I will never forget our hours of go fish, regardless of how bored of the game my Bobby was. She just wanted to spend more time with us. She truly was one of a kind. So special, with the biggest heart. Our Bobby was an outstanding role model for our entire family, and she taught us how to be a genuine person. I love you, Bobby.
Bobby and I shared a car since I got my license until she could no longer drive. The deal was that I had to come into the house every time I wanted to take the car, have lunch, sit down, and talk with her. I could tell Bobby anything. She was a safe zone for me, and I would come over and tell her everything that was going on. The content of those conversations are just between my Bobby and I. I drove Bobby around whenever Zadie was out running errands, or more often golfing. She had two places she always needed to be, the hair salon and the nail salon. In the last few years, Zadie was amazing, taking care of her every needs. Everyone who knows me knows that I love to talk, and when my family had enough and decided it was time for me to shut up, I always had my Bobby who would listen to everything I had to say. She was really the sweetest and most kind-hearted woman ever. I love you, Bobby. Our Bobby and Zadie were avid travelers through the years, initially fueled by many Manulife conversations when they used as a launching pad to travel to various destinations, many of them quite exotic. From their 50s on, they traveled extensively for long periods of time, trying to live the life of the locals. Places like south of France, India, China, Asia, and South America. Sometimes with other couples and many times on their own. Bobby traveled many of those places in her last years in a wheelchair or scooter, but she was determined to experience everything she possibly could and not be hindered by anything. During these times, she still managed to fit in multiple trips a year to Toronto and Vancouver or wherever her grandchildren lived. She was an adoring grandmother, extremely committed to her grandchildren. She often drove us to school, to our friends' houses, to sports. She picked up, dropped off, and loved every minute of it. She was a huge fan and loved watching us at our games and practices. A very special time was when Bobby was able to meet and hold her great-granddaughter Aiden over the past year. We know Bobby loved her visits with Aiden, as she often remarked how incredible it was every time Aiden did, well, anything. Our memories will always be of our family gathering together at our cottage around the dinner table, eating our gourmet meals with Bobby at the head of the table and being involved in every conversation. As she got older, my Bobby had multiple health issues and lived in constant pain. However, she handled it all with courage and grace, most people having no idea to the extent of what she was dealing with. My grandparents set an amazing example of what a marriage and true partnership should be. They demonstrated mutual respect, great communication, and tremendous adoration. My dad and Auntie Jill remember Bobby and Zadie always hugging and kissing, often sneaking a pinch on the bum. As most people here would agree, my Bobby and Zadie still demonstrated this love, celebrating their 58th wedding anniversary this past June. Bobby loved the lake and all the wonderful years we spent there together. She passed away in her happy place at the lake, surrounded by all of us. Over the last year, my Zadie and Bobby talked often about what legacy they were going to leave their grandchildren and their children. They felt the best legacy ever is the place that our family congregates, celebrates, and loves being together, our cottage. We love you, Bobby, and we will miss you every day.
Thank you so much. Such beautiful way to honor Jerry's memory. See, when we come to this place, what is gone is very evident. So that's why we need to go through the process of memory, so we can realize everything from Jerry that stays with us. We remember her optimism and positivity. She was the life of the party, a kind soul, non-judgmental, soul of the family, an incredible love of life. May her memory be a source of blessing and comfort. Amen. Going to continue now reciting the memorial prayer, the El Maleh Rachamim. El Maleh Rachamim Shochem Bameroimim Hametze Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashechina Vema'alot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kezoyar Araki Amazirim Et Nishema Et Nishema Tova Bat Chaim Verachel She'alecha Le'olama Bavur Shanu Mitpalelim Ve'ad Azkarat Nishemata Began Eidein Began Eden Tei Menuchata Lachem Balarachamim Ya Astir Eya Veseder Kena Avavleolamim Utzeror Bitznor Achaim Achaim Et Nishemata Adonai Unachalata Vetanuach Veshalom Al Mishkava Venomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Geraldine Lomow, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Please join me now in the recitation of the words of comfort, the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash shemei Rabah. Be'alma divirah chilutei ve'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon u'yom echon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Israel b'gala u'b'zman kariv ve'imru. Amen. Yehe shemer Rabah mevorach le'alam le'olmei olmaya. Barach, Mishtavach, Mitpa'ar, Vitromam, Vitnase, Veitadar, Veitale, Veitalal, Shemei de Kudesha, Berichu. Leila, Inkol Birchata, Veshirata, Veshvechata, Venechemata, Tamiram, Bialma, Vimeru, Amen. Yehesh Lama Rava Min Shemaya, Chaim Aleinu, El Kol Israel Vimeru Amen. Ose Shalom in Bromav. We Ase Shalom. Aleinu. El Kol Israel Vimeru Amen. Hamakom Yinachem Etchem B'Tov Sharav Letzion V'Yerushalayim. May God bless you and comfort you. And let us all say Amen. A few announcements. Immediately after the burial part of the service, everybody is invited for a gathering at Mark's residence in 181 Oxford Street. Shiva will be observed today, tomorrow, and Tuesday at the same place, Mark's home. Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m. and Monday and Tuesday, 1 to 3 p.m. and 7 to 9 p.m. Everybody is invited to come and to participate. Also, if you wish to make a donation in Jerry's memory, please consider to do it to the Geraldine Lomow Z Endowment Fund at the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba. And now we have the final step of this service, which is to actively participate on the burial process. According to the rabbis, the act of taking a shovel, putting some earth on top of a coffin, is the highest level of kindness, of chesed. In fact, it's called an act of true kindness, chesed shel emet. Why is it true kindness? And the rabbis explain that human nature is to expect retribution every time we do something for somebody else. When you do something for somebody who passed away, who cannot repay you in any way or form, then that's what we call an act of true kindness. So we are going to follow the Shaarey Zedek tradition, so immediate family is invited first to come take a shovel and participate, and then everybody else is invited. This is an open invitation to come forward, pick up a shovel, and to put a little bit of earth on top of Jerry's coffin. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out this morning. Thank you, all of you on the internet, for tuning in.
Bless you.
Big hugs.
I had such a good time with your mom. Oh, we really.
She loves you. Nice you guys got to visit this year. Nice you got to visit.
Yes.
Go out this year.
Yes.
You know?
I'm so
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
No, but
Yeah.
I guess God knew it
That's
should
right.
be.
Right. No, definitely.
Do I have to tell you? You stand for a butterfly from God. And I know this is nothing from Chinese, but it is so stand. And that's your soul. And you see that. It is like the most precious thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Right, I know.
If I tell it to too many people, if I go crazy and lock me up.
No.
But I'm telling you.
Sweet. No. Beautiful spot here.
That's what, do you know my grandfather He came to Canada in the 1800s. He was one of the founders of Shaarey Synagogue. And he purchased the land for this cemetery.
Oh, wow.
And donated it to his son.
Wow.
And this was his thing.
Wow.
And he,
Amazing.
the reason he did it was that he had, during the flu epidemic,
Okay.
he lost 2 little babies.
Oh, wow.
And there was nowhere to bury them. And he brought them and he did that.
Wow, that's quite the story.
And I might come home here. I'm working on it. I'm thinking where I'm going. And I think I might be here with my
Inevitably,
parents.
we're all getting closer.
Yeah. No, not you guys. You got a long way to go, kiddo.
Oh, I know, but it's...
But you know what?
Yeah, we all think about it.
Remember, we just don't. We don't.
No,
We don't. It's sort of,
we don't think about
it's a
that.
little frightening to people. They think we're nuts. But you know what? The long as I get it, I'm using it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Your health is good, hey?
pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
feel it?
Yeah, I've got a couple of issues.
We can
but
go
I'm
up here,
working on
so-
them. Yeah, go. Will you hold my foot? Go ahead, Tim.
I can guess and I've been around, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You discussed this over the years.
Yeah. I didn't see you since I saw your brother in Mexico.
Oh, that's right. No,
I don't think we got. That was really nice.
You can't get through there, Dad. It's all water.
Yeah. Instead of all the places we've been to in COVID, that was by far.
She's trapped. She's trapped. She's in a maze now. She can't get out because there's water there. I noticed there's like a new little grave over there in the summer. I saw it to area, I guess. Oh, definitely. Yeah, Judith's a good point.